Welcome back to another episode of the Real Teachers of Atlanta. I am Joya.
I'm Nikki.
I am Ty.
And today's episode is IEPs.
Take two.
And today's episode is a serious one. IEPs ain't equal.
No.
In today's episode, IEPs, they ain't equal. And why parents should have an advocate.
Close.
What is the first part?
That's good.
What was...
You want to run it back?
Yeah.
Okay. The IEP table.
Oh!
Dang. Okay.
On today's episode of the Real Teachers of Atlanta, the IEP table ain't equal. That's not it.
Yeah,
That's it. Keep going. Run it back.
The IEP... Welcome back to another episode of the Real Teachers of Atlanta. I'm Joya.
I'm Nikki.
I'm Ty.
And in today's episode, why the IEP table...
Cut the show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Teachers of Atlanta. I am Joya.
I'm Nikki.
I am Ty.
And in today's episode, why is the IEP table...
Why do you keep saying why? Just let me do it.
No, I got it.
You ready to drink?
In today's episode,
The IEP.
the
table.
IET... Oh my God. I'm so glad
I need all of this. Joy, don't you cut. I need this piece.
Today's episode is the IEP table ain't equal. Why parents should have an advocate. All right, sounds like...
All right, let's...
I need to...
We got the queens in the house, y'all. Real teachers of Atlanta. We got the queens in the house, y'all.
All right, no, this is a serious episode. So,
It is.
all right, so parents typically don't know that they should have an advocate when it comes to IEPs, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna let you take it from there. Why is that so?
Well, I don't think parents know that they can have an advocate at IEP meetings, and I think it's very important that parents have an advocate at IEP meetings. Yes, so if you didn't know that you can bring representation in that meeting with you, you can and you should, because there's so much jargon, so many things for as words parents don't have knowledge about, and they're often pushed into a corner when it comes to their children's education. So if you have an advocate, they can assist you with the jargon, the lingo. They can support you and your child, so you don't have to feel like you have to go with the decision of placement that the school offers you. So it's very important that you have an advocate. And I strongly, and I'm a special education teacher in the ELA content, I strongly recommend parents based on some experiences. Some are very fresh and have cut me deep. But I really recommend that parents do have an advocate. And I'm a teacher and a case manager that's recommending that.
What about, because I've seen a couple of videos recently of teachers talking about this in a special education space, about specialists being in those meetings as well. Like I've been to IEP meetings as a gen ed teacher for math. So I understand there's data that I need to collect. There's certain information that I need to be able to provide and talk to when it comes to my students. But when it comes to specialists, whether you have occupational therapy, behavioral specialists, speech, whatever the cases may be that are impacting your child and surround their learning, would an advocate support parents in ensuring that those persons are able to show up or are present in those meetings? And are they always required?
They're not always required, but they are asked to be there. And then it just depends on what type of meeting that you're having, because when we talk about special education, it's different type of meetings that you can have and who needs to be in those meetings. But if your child is receiving those type of services, now by all means, I'm not an advocate. I'm just an experienced special education teacher. So with having all, it depends on what type of services, who provide those services for the student. They definitely need to be inside the meeting.
So if anyone provides a service to your student, the expectation is that that person is present in that meeting, and that is an expectation, like not a suggestion.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Be clear, you heard it here first.
Right.
Just saying, because there was a lot of conversation. I'm asking because seriously, this is it's a topic that I hear a lot of misinformation about, and thankfully I have friends who know about it. Like I said, I'm gen ed, so I'm not teaching special ed, but I provide learning in my classroom to special education students that are served under that. So it's important to know who's required to be there based on what your students' services are. And I think I've just seen so many people arguing back and forth, even from teachers saying, no, they don't have to be, or no, they should be, or you should do this.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's what put us in our, in what we're talking about now in the beginning, like who's at the table. Those people do need to be at the meetings. Okay. Why not?
Yeah.
They're part of the process.
Yeah, I think it's good for parents to know. And I think do you think that students, I know we've talked about this before in previous episodes, but should students know what's in their IEP and what services they should receive? Do you think it's important that they know, or is it like it's fine if you know that you're supposed to get whatever accommodations or whatever?
I think yes, students should know, especially those students that are in middle school.
Okay.
But it's hard for you to explain it as a parent if you don't know the jargon. You know what I'm saying? So I do think it's important for students to know, because they need to advocate for themselves, because they are their first advocate. They need to be able to advocate for themselves. And secondly, we hear kids do get sometimes made fun of because they're in special education programs. So they need to know, why, what are the services that are being provided for me? Why do I need these services? Because it doesn't mean that I'm not smart. I just learn differently. And that does, I've said before, I've taught a child that made all A's, top of the class from general education to special education students. But he was, because, he had a disability, but he was smart as a whip. So that doesn't always mean that the kid is behind academically.
So really, if we were to kind of generalize it, special education is just about offering an equitable opportunity for your student to learn. Because I think it's important to say that. I know we're talking about parents being an advocate, but I think sometimes parents have this stigma that special education is bad and we don't want kids to be supported. I feel like it's, it's kind of looked at negatively, and I like what you're saying.
Sometimes it is, especially for the Black and brown communities, because some kids get misdiagnosed. A kid can have a behavior problem. Oh, they got a learning disability. Or it could be something else, and they already, we're going to put them in a special class because that's what they have diagnosed them to have, is a learning disability. And that may not even be it. It may be a circumstance of something that's going on, some type of trauma that's going on at the house. And they just fell off for a minute.
Yeah.
And now your child is
labeled
in special education.
See, people don't think about it like that. I mean, like just listening to it again, like, we have conversations, and I know special ed is like something that is a hot topic all the time, but hearing that kind of take on it again, I think is important. That it's not, we have to be conscious of how we're labeling our Black and brown students, and really making sure that we're determining them correctly and not just quickly dismissing, but also looking at what someone is getting in special education, what's important.
Yeah, and then the other end of the spectrum is gifted.
Yeah, which is also
because it's also a type of special education. So there have to be, and not to get too far off of the topic, but there have I believe that there should be advocates for identifying gifted students. Now, I have my opinion about gifted and the long-term effects of whether or not it's beneficial for the student, but it does provide students with a space so that they're not bored in class, you know. So identifying our melanated children that are gifted and making sure that they are tested, and even if they have a behavioral problem, it could be because they are bored. A lot of students are bored, and when coming from the special education side and the gen ed side, a lot of the curriculum is boring.
Yeah.
It is extremely boring. And so I can completely understand why some kids would feel like they can't sit in their seat. Like, I can't take this another second. But yeah, identifying those gifted students are really important as well.
Yeah. That's a good point. Because I know, like, even when I just kind of think about when I was in school, I was one of those kids that took honors classes and wasn't gifted, but I was like always a fidgeter. Like always fidgeting, always moving, always chatty. But that, I mean, I wasn't until I was older that I kind of learned like what that was from or whatever. But I feel like that's something that, to your point, when you are in school, that could have easily been like, it's something wrong and we need to test her for this. But when I was in my regular classes, it would be boring. Like, I don't like language arts. I never enjoyed language arts classes, and that would always be my lowest class, my lowest grade. Not because I couldn't do the work. I just loathed being in that. Like, to your point, it bored me so bad. I just hated it. So I just was like, I didn't put the effort into it that I put into my science or my chemistries or my math classes, where I found joy in those, or my art classes. Like,
you just needed a fun ELA teacher.
I really probably would have.
Because my students have fun.
I believe it, because y'all always doing something. But if I had, listen, every language arts teacher, if you see me now, y'all was boring to death to me. Y'all was taking me down. Y'all used to put them big old books on that talk about read 3 chapters. I was like, girl.
Interesting. You have to dress up as the character. You have to get the students involved. It can be a very
that's a lot
taxing subject.
Yeah, I guess you do a lot of that stuff. It was just boring. I didn't care. That's why I think that's probably why I still to this day am like, when it comes, just because it was traumatic.
I have a question. So for parents that do have students that are in special education, what would the steps be for them to secure an advocate for an IEP meeting?
Okay, so I was going to talk about that at the end. Not me up here acting like I'm the advocate myself.
I mean,
this is what you
I haven't taught special education in a couple of years, and apparently things have changed. So
so parents can seek their own advocate. They can either now they can hire one. There's advocates that charge, and I think their rates are from like $50 to $200
an hour.
Ooh. But of course, there's always nonprofit organizations, and every state, with what I read, every state has a training for parents that they can learn these, the information.
We got some links, then we can.
Well, now that falls up under the Department of Education. Now, it may be affected now that Trump has cut the budget for disability by 15%. Our department has, that's the cut we got. It's been cut by 15%. So those type of programs may be affected. I'm not sure. But like I said, they could, if their state has the training that's there for them, or they can just reach out to a advocate that's in their state. But just knowing, most of the times we plan like 2 weeks ahead for a meeting. That's best practices. So parents would need to, within that 2 week time frame, they know they're having a meeting, to get them someone in there, or annual, your kid has an annual review every year. Then if you kind of have a roundabout, because they have to meet that deadline before they actually implemented the IEP on that last year. if parents can remember, but parents don't know, they're not keeping up with things like that, and that's why again the advocate is important, because they're going to know the language, they're going to be fluent with the language. It's so many parents, let me get through this meeting. I don't know what they're talking about anyway. And don't, be a person that doesn't speak fluent English. That's another barrier of misunderstanding,
But
miscommunication.
isn't a translator required?
Yes,
I know that used to be a thing.
Translators are required, but they're not an advocate.
Right.
So
fair.
They're just trying to get through the meeting.
there through the meeting.
They're relating what
the
school is saying, or the members of the IEP meeting.
Pause. Because I remember us talking about having translators before, and I just want to clarify something that I have read and then experienced. The translator doesn't have to be versed. They don't have to be a teacher at the school.
No.
And they don't have to be versed in the converse. Like, they don't have to be knowledgeable about IEP, special education, or education at all. They just have to be employed by the district.
And do they speak?
Right.
And speak that language, and that is it. So they're not, I know you said they're not an advocate, but they don't even have to know your student. They don't have to know anything other than pretty much that language.
They're just there to do their job.
They're just translators.
Right, interpret.
I'm just
interpret,
because that was a thing. Because I think I went to a meeting where my translator was a janitor.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it like that.
I said the wrong thing. It's interpret, right?
Interpret.
Yeah,
Interpreter. Same thing. They're translating
the language.
Oh, okay.
That's all they're doing.
But we call them interpreters.
Okay.
But it would be strongly advised, if you do not speak English, to seek someone that's an advocate that speak the language that you do. So they can relate it to you, and they're knowledgeable. Because if you're taking an interpreter into the meeting, sitting in front of that committee, you're just relaying what the committee is saying to you.
Correct.
You're right.
So what are the consequences, or what are some of the things that can happen if parents do not have advocates, or they don't understand the legalities of the IEP?
Okay, so there's a good chance that your child may be in the wrong placement.
Okay.
And it's legal binding. So what can you do after the meeting is over and it's adjourned, and you go ahead and say yes to whatever the committee decisions the committee has made for your child? You didn't know, you didn't understand, perhaps. Maybe you understood some things, but you've agreed to whatever placement that they have offered your child.
So when we start, that's crazy. It almost feels like you would think, just based on our conversation and our own experiences, you would think that an advocate would almost be very common. Like, you would think that this is something that everyone should have, like everyone would have somehow, whether it's provided by the school district, if your student receives services, something.
But they do.
I mean, just saying,
they do. Now, some schools do have advocates that work for them, but you got to remember, they're going to be in the best interest of that school.
Right.
So I wouldn't be advising a parent to get an advocate that works for the school, because they're going to do what's in the best interest for the school. And a lot of times, school do things for convenience.
Yes. Because I was going to ask about that, because I know we've had where, well, I won't say we, but I know that there's always conversations about, like, making sure that the students have the right level of services. And sometimes we start talking about, okay, maybe this student doesn't utilize their extended time all the time, so they don't need extended time. Right. And take this thing away, especially as they're getting older and matriculating through school, they need the fewer services we start to see, right?
Yeah, they try to wean them off.
Yeah, so essentially. But if that's what the school is pushing, because doing that makes the job easier, it's less people that are necessary, so the fewer students receiving a service, you don't need it. Is that always the best practice?
That's not the best practice, but that goes back to the convenience piece.
Okay.
Now, it sounds good. We all want to do what's in the best interest of the child, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to be doing. But I don't think that's always the case. I think it's a matter of HR, meaning people, and what level of work I want to do. And as a caseworker, you are the advocate for your students. Every caseworker that's in special education need to be advocating for their child. And you are the expert in that committee. But a lot of times these directors and other people go into the meeting and they're making suggestions on your behalf. But you're the one that's taking the data. You're the one that's sitting with the child. You're the one that's hands-on with that student. You're the expert in the room. You're the one should be recommending the placement. And sometimes that gets stripped away from you.
And you have to retain
And
your
you
own.
become powerless.
Okay.
Right.
So they essentially make the final decision.
Right. The people above you make the decisions. But if I'm a case manager, that's not true form on really the total description of what I am, supposed to be doing.
Who does that fall on? So if someone above me is making decisions that are impacting the student, who's responsible for that decision? Like, who's responsible for upholding that? Is that you as the case manager? So if something comes back, so if something happens, this child is now receiving a different service, they're misplaced, right? Who does that fall back on if you...
I'm assuming it's going to fall back on a director. I
I somehow feel like it would still fall back on the case.
Right.
I do. Like, somehow
Right,
in my mind,
They
I feel
fix
like
it to where
I really feel like it would be...
Well, every director will say, "Oh, we go to court. They're not coming for you. They're coming for me." That I've heard that, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But I don't want to get tied up in any legalities and find out.
right.
Right.
So
to your point with that, even it's best to do what's best for your students.
for
so you
me,
don't
I'm
have that
always
issue.
going to advocate for my student, whether it's for them to be placed back into the general education setting, or even if I'm in the resource setting. Sometimes it's not, may not be the best place for them in the resource setting. So you always want to, let your superiors know what's happening with that child, collect the data. Then, they love to be.
Because you gotta have something. You can't just say, "Well, I don't think." You can't say, "I think."
You gotta have,
maybe.
you gotta have data. But good teachers are good parents, and the data is there. But sometimes, I don't know. Like I think it's a blurred line when it comes to, yes, we have the data, but what is moving that child to a different setting? Would that be like socially the best thing? Like different things play into factor.
Yeah.
Well, I think when it comes to the total process of placing a student. But at the end of, you want them to be where they're going to strive. So, I don't know. It's 1 in 7. What it says, out of 7 students, one of them will be labeled as a student with disability.
Wow.
That feels pretty high.
That's high.
1 in 7?
I read in 23-24, we had over 7 million students across the U.S. that fell under IDA.
So what is causing that? Well, there's so many different factors.
I feel like that's true, but I think that's a good question. What is causing it? Is it how are we even getting to labeling? We know that that's a spectrum. We know that special education is a spectrum. So putting them all in the same bucket, are we including 504s? Are we not? Because probably so, which may change that number, but we don't know. We also know that students are often mislabeled just because of specific behaviors. They might just need a little bit of therapy or a little time out instead of us just automatically jumping to conclusions.
No, a little time out.
Some students just need discipline and structure to thrive, and they don't. It's not that there's anything cognitively wrong. You just need structure. They need a schedule, that steady. They need a steady home. That part.
Not the belt.
BELT.
Not the belt.
Hands on them.
Switch.
And not always for prayer.
Not to abuse, but to
just
some
a
of
little
them.
correction. We also need to look at, I think there's, racial, maybe some discrimination there that we also need to consider. So there's always a lot of factors, but what percentage of those students were impacted by those factors, and were we wrong? Were we right? I don't know. This is to me, it's a tough topic.
And how many students are labeled for the benefit of the school?
That's what
For
I'm talking
money.
about.
Because I think that's another thing that we have to point out, that when we're looking at disabilities and Title I's and these different labels that we have for students and how it benefits public schools for each child, depending on the county, depending on where you are, they do bring in
Federal dollars.
quite a bit for the school.
Who gets more? Is it Title I that gets more, or IDEA that gets more?
What do you
Because Title I is based on the community's
talking about the
income.
community.
Like which one brings in more federal dollars? I'm
special
curious.
education.
I would think so
Probably
too.
special education.
Absolutely.
Because I'm
and if you
curious,
get both, it's a double whammy.
and there you
That's
go.
the point
and
I'm
don't-
making.
And I wonder if
Because
See, now
these
I have to look it
more
up.
affluent schools don't have a big special education program.
and there it is,
No,
and there it is.
a lot of the private schools don't have the.
Well, they don't. So private schools don't. We have to be careful with that. Private schools, because they are private, they don't have to serve as special because
That's
they
true.
can select their students.
That's right.
So they don't
No.
even have to.
No,
Private
They,
schools.
they don't have to. They can service. Your child can come if they have a learning disability.
they want to.
It is already understood that they get the same work. I taught in private.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what we gave them in general education,
Is what
they get
everything
into.
went across the board.
Mm.
Nothing
No,
was
but I'm
modified.
saying that's what I'm saying though. But they can serve a child. But I'm saying private school can pick and choose who they even take in. They don't have to
they
take
can.
in.
They can
So
take
if they don't
in.
even want to deal with
that type.
that, they don't have to.
Yeah,
'cause
but
it's private.
I had kids with learning disabilities.
Oh, I'm
I mean, autistic as
Oh,
well.
sure.
Oh, okay.
Highly autistic, but you know what?
Baby, I know that.
Got in there and did their work
Yeah.
with no separation.
I bet you them parents didn't complain either.
No, and that's not to say that a lot of the students, special education doesn't need funding, but we know that school is very political.
And a
It's
business.
not always in the best interest of the student. There are a lot of greedy people in education. which
Education is
sick.
the easiest business to get federal
That's right.
funding. It's the easiest avenue to federal funding. And I'm not saying that to say anything other than you have to pay attention to where the money goes. And I feel like, just like we've talked about, go to the board meetings. Go to, when the school board is meeting, they have open forums. Parents should show up because that is when decisions are made. You should know who they're vetting for superintendent in your school's district. You should know who your local superintendents are in your school district. You should know who your elected leaders are. And when you are voting for governor, for council members, for anybody, you have to understand that part of their conversation has to be education.
Right.
And if the higher up you go, the
Right.
more it's impacted. So your governor of your state has to have an education conversation. You need to know what their stance is, what they're going to be impacting, because that is who is ultimately going to sign off on what they're going to request for federal funding, and that's going to trickle down to your community, divvied up between all the schools who are receiving funding. So you got to know. I think that's another part of it goes back to the same thing. Parents being involved. The money is a big piece. When Kemp was running, the first thing he did was what? Where the teachers at? Teachers,
Yes.
teachers, teachers.
That's
And he
right.
ran on teachers as his platform because we all know that statistically in Georgia, teachers vote Republican.
That's right.
Even though,
Yep.
I'm going to say it.
'Cause he take care
It
of those
goes.
teachers.
He takes care of
take care
them
of-
while sweeping the rug up from under our
That
feet.
money was already
And
there.
that money had already been here.
It's politics.
Now she
And-
running it back.
I'm
It's
just saying because that's
Yeah.
it has happened to us.
The money was
Over and
already
over
there.
and over
It's
again.
it's all about
was
everything
politics.
is political. So them saying that, okay, well, we're going to allocate these particular funds to teachers, well, the funds were already
all-
there.
Right. It's
just-
all the budget's
the
been
budget-
approved.
right.
This
The
year's
budget
budget
is
was 2-3 years ago.
That's right.
The budget is cut well for us to Department of Education.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that it
has
is.
been sliced.
And I feel like, to your point from earlier, that's a conversation that definitely needs to be had about how are the students going to be impacted.
Yeah, because they
with
will.
that?
They already are being impacted.
Yeah.
If
What
you're
does that
talking
look
about
like,
taking
though?
15%
That's a lot of
funds,
money.
because there's a lot of special needs programs.
Yes.
You know, it's not all a list. You know, it's some programs out there that need. I mean, we all need the funding, but you know, there's different categories that fall up under learning disability, and those funds are needed at the school to support our students. So we already were struggling. We couldn't afford to
Another
take
cut.
a cut.
For that to be 7 million students, and then to know that
It's-
we
the numbers
cut
are
15%, the
growing.
number is going up, but the money went down. I feel like the first thing that's going to
Yes.
go is like you said, HR. So that means staff, which means small
That's-
group or small class sizes for special education students might look like 20 instead of
That's
10.
crazy.
Because you got to spread out. Those kids have to go somewhere. So if
Yeah,
there's fewer teachers,
lot.
that just means your class sizes are going to be larger. And so are we going to start changing the definition of terms? Small group is now going to be half a class.
We're going to move to artificial intelligence at that.
So you're going to have an AI teacher?
That's exactly what I said.
Okay.
That's
Chat
exactly what I
GPT at
said.
the front of the class?
Parents.
Chat, because then they
Professor
will be
chatting.
able to have the stamina to now teach 20 students that have a learning disability.
That's a lot.
That's right. Run them numbers back. 7.9 million.
That's 8.
Kids.
7.9, that's 8.
That was as of, I think, fall of 2020. It may have been, 2023. I think that was fall. And the number is still growing.
Because more kids are going to
And now, and that's one, and that you brought it to light. Now you got that many kids falling under ADI, and then you go and cut the budget.
that just shows how important it was. That just shows how important it was.
But like you said, we don't know all the ramifications of those students.
We're
But
gonna see
still,
the trickle down, and it's not gonna
that
take long
number
to
is
see
there.
it. That's really sad. And
But
to your point, parents
get an advocate. There's so much language on those IEPs that you don't know, and that's why we cannot stress reading, how important that is. And that's when that piece comes in. If we lack reading skills in the beginning, comprehension, that's why reading is so critical, because you need to be reading that IEP. You need to understand the language that's in there, and it's so much language that's you're not going to know because you're not in that setting, but it's out there for you to go research, go educate yourself, especially if you have a child that's autistic or have any, when they reach into the school, they're going to be placed with IEP. And you already need to be up on game. You need to learn the language. I cannot stress it enough. Learn about what's happening with your child at the school. Just don't be like, oh, they got smaller classes. They're going to modify their work. They're going to, they're going to be helping my child to assist with his learning disability. Don't get to the mean and be a yes person.
Ask questions.
Yes, all
Ask questions, and don't get upset if they seem like they're ready to go home. That child is your responsibility at the end of the day. Yes, we teach them. Yes, they are in our care, but they are your child. So whatever happens to them ultimately falls upon your shoulders. So ask questions, please.
Absolutely. And pay attention to what's going on. Go to the meetings for the school district so you know where the funding is, what's happening, and what your child needs, and definitely get it all.
All right, and get second opinions.
Oh, yeah, second
Yes.
opinions. You can get that.
You can always get second opinions. Your child might not even have a learning disability. So, get your own evaluation. Yes, the school has a psychologist and they do an evaluation, but you are able to go on your own and get your child evaluated. These are rights y'all need to know. Y'all need to know your rights when it comes to your kids.
And that's public, actually, on Department of Education website. If they ain't been taken down now, it used to be public
Let
that
Joy
you
get it
could
out
see.
before she forget.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to help you out.
I didn't say it.
I was out trying to help
I know
you
I'm
out.
messing with you. So this is the last thing. So let's say if a parent has a child that teachers believe needs an IEP, can they deny services?
Parents can
Parents.
deny.
Yeah,
I
Yes.
think a lot
right.
of parents don't know that they can actually.
Yeah, they have right.
I've
Yeah,
had that
okay.
happen. It broke my heart. That was the
yeah,
only time I cried.
The
Yeah.
parent
Second
has
time, first time.
the right to deny any services that the school suggests
Okay.
that the child needs. Is that what is that? What is that?
Why, Atlanta? Why it won't start raining in the A? It's a rainy
All
night
right.
in Georgia.
Okay.
Well, I hope this has been helpful. The more I know, the more I will share, and we will all grow. But yes, that's all that I have.
Let me close that.
Yes.
Okay. Where I'm going.
Middle camp. Oh.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of the Real Teachers of Atlanta. We hope that you learned something. We hope that you are able to take something away. If you have questions, you can drop them in the comments below. But you can find us on all social media platforms at the Real Teachers of Atlanta. Make sure you watch this video all the way through so you can get all the content and any information we all have to share. Anyways, love y'all. Bye.
Bye.
We got the queens in the house, y'all.